All right, guys, thank you for joining us. And wanted to put out a quick video. Gotten a lot of questions from you guys, and understandably so, regarding the whole long-term care thing. Surprise, surprise, Washington State's throwing another forced tax at us. Good news is the tax is not too penal. It's going to be about a 50 basis point tax on average, 58 basis point tax, so 0.5%. The issue that we have with the tax, and you guys can see the agenda screen. This kind of gives you an outline of the things that we want to go over. And just for clarification's sake, these are a couple ideas. Obviously, you guys know we work with Brian Ott too. Maybe Brian Ott is going to be dealing with the more comprehensive long-term care policies. This was just something that we wanted to make available to our clients because these products that we're going to go over, they are a workaround from paying that tax. But the real economic thing, it's not the tax burden that we're concerned about. It's really the benefit you get for it. So the lifetime benefit through the state of Washington, if you're paying that tax, is $36,000, right? If those of you out there that are making somewhere between 80 to 140 grand a year, and you work another 15 to 20 years, you're going to put in a fairly substantial amount of money, and it's going to be almost it's if we included interest earned on that money, like if you didn't pay taxes but you invested and earned it, over 15 to 20 years, it adds up to being almost, I think, more. I think we're over $40,000. So you're literally getting nothing for your money. That's the issue we have. So the policies, and you can probably see Nate down in the right hand corner there. Nate is an insurance specialist with our insurance wholesalers down in Phoenix. He's been kind enough to join us and walk us through this stuff because he's been studying up and he's an expert on these products. And he's going to walk us through. And I want to say right out of the gate, I am not advising that any of you purchase this product. I want to give you an overview, let you know that we're on top of it, that we've got plans, that we've got ways to get around this and actually get you a policy that's worth something, that can actually do some protection. Actually, like I said, a $36,000 policy for long-term care is the same as having nothing. It's virtually meaningless. So we're just going to go over those products, and then this is only going to be 15 to 20 minutes, just informational. And then we're going to reach out to you guys one-on-one, and we're going to walk through and make sure that if this is something that does work for you, that we go down that path. But also maybe it's something that doesn't. I know that a lot of you and a lot of us have had that, where I've had that conversation with a lot of you regarding that. In a lot of circumstances, long-term care is a luxury, but it's not a necessity. And sometimes it just doesn't make economic sense. And that could still be the fact. That could still be the situation. The interesting thing about these products that Nate's going to present to us is they're much less of a financial burden, right? It's much less of a financial commitment. They're much smaller amounts needed to invest in traditional long-term care insurance. But more importantly to me, one of the benefits I see here is that traditional long-term care insurance is outstanding. The stuff that Brian Ott has sold to some of our clients and the products that he recommends are outstanding. I can't say enough about the job Brian does. It's just really, really expensive. It's almost not even like insurance. It's almost like just prepaying. And that's the issue I have is I don't want to prepay it because I think there are other things that we can prepay into that will give us a better return and give us more flexibility with our dollars and all those kinds of things. But the products that Nate's going to be showing us today actually have some substantial insurance benefits to them. And if I can pay $80,000 to $100,000 and get $250,000 to $500,000 in long-term care insurance, now I'm talking about insurance, right? Now I'm actually getting a multiplier on my money. And so that's what these new products address. And I'm going to kick it over to Nate. I'll interject with questions I have, but without further ado, Nate, why don't you kick things off for us?
Yeah, thank you, Zach. First and foremost, I want to talk about it. This is an incredible opportunity right now to understand what the actual Washington Cares Fund is, but more importantly, some of the opportunities you have to either opt out or opt into it is another option if it makes sense for you. And again, this is where Zach and Burke are so good at is making sure to review that with you on a case by case basis to find what is in your best interest, not only today, but 10, 15 years from now, like he said. So we're going to go over the overview of the Act, how the program works, how you can opt out of the program. But more importantly, we're going to actually talk about some solutions that are out there. And what I like is Nationwide, who is probably one of the most recognizable insurance companies in the country, has literally come out with this actual presentation on what we're looking at, because they have designed products that can help you opt out of this if you so choose. So the first thing I want to actually look at here is what is the Washington Cares Fund, right? Well, this is the first publicly funded program created for long-term care benefits for people in that state. They're not going to be the last. I will tell you that this initiative is on the bill for several other states. I'll kind of address that in a second. But what they're trying to do here is tax to offer a benefit for individuals, not if, but most likely when they need it for long-term care. Program becomes effective January 1st. You have up until, believe it or not, November 1st to opt out of this program. Here's who is affected by this program. All W-2 employees. If you have a W-2 income, this will be automatically deducted from your paycheck starting in January of 2022. Okay? All self-employed persons or any 1099 employees, this is not going to affect you. It is truly only W-2 employees. So there are some arguments out there that business owners or heavy commissioned people, you may not need this. But again, I encourage you to reach out to Zach and the team to discuss your personal situation to see how this does affect you, whether you're 1099, W-2, or both. Here's who the benefits will not be available for. Anyone under the age of 18, anyone who is already permanently retired. That's a big one. So if you're already retired, you're pretty much not going to be affected by this, right? Unless you do have a small W-2 income. Also, individuals who have not vested in the program. And this is a big red flag out there, because if you have not vested per the Washington Cares Fund fine print, you may not qualify for the benefits that you've already put money in for. Also, any individuals living in the state of Washington or living outside the state of Washington when these LTC events occur, you need to have all care being taken care of in the state of Washington. So here's what Zach was alluding to: that 58% for every, or 58 cents for every $100 you earn. When we first looked at this, we're like, that really might not move the needle for individuals to opt out of this or look at an alternative solution. But what I do like to focus on is what you actually get for that dollar amount versus what else is available, right? Again, Zach and his team are very good about finding these alternative solutions that may put you in a better position than that 58 cents for every $100 you earn. As you can see there, for someone making $100,000 a year, it's $580 a year for this long-term care Washington Cares Fund.
Hey, Nate, quick question to interrupt you here. Is there any language in the law about concerning their ability to be able to increase that tax in the future?
That is a great question, and I'm glad you asked that, Zach. They actually shied away from putting a cap on there for the sole purposes of if they put that out there, then I think a lot of people would see the writing on the wall where it eventually could go and where it probably will.
So this could very well possibly be a camel with his nose under the tent type scenario, where that's just the beginning.
Yeah, and obviously we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know where it's going to go. We don't know how many people are going to fund it, but you know, as I get to these next slides, I think you'll start to understand that someone that contributes maybe $5.80 versus someone who contributes $58,000 a year to this thing all get the same benefits. And I think everyone can kind of see where this may go in the future as far as being underfunded. So that being said, I want to go to here to a little more on this. Although it may aesthetically appear that you're not paying much for these benefits, it's what the benefits are and how you get them that become less and less attractive for this money that you otherwise are spending or required to spend. So again, if you are self-employed or if you are a 1099, you can actually elect to opt into this program. So, you know, that is a positive for several people out there maybe listening to this that may feel like they are uninsurable, right? Good news about this program is if you're uninsurable for traditional long-term care or one of the unique new long-term care solutions, you can opt into this, which is great for you. And there are some certain dates on this, and again, we'll have Zach and their team talk to you on an individual basis about making sure we get you those dates and that you are enrolled in that if you so choose to opt in. Again, it's the same premium as if you were a W-2 employee. The vesting requirements become pretty unattractive, though. Okay, and again, this is going to be on a case-by-case basis, looking at how much longer you're going to work and how long you're going to live in the state of Washington. And it may make sense to opt out of this thing if you're going to be living in that state for less than 10 years and or working less than 3 to 6 years. Again, I don't want to dive into this too much. I want to let you know, but there is a vesting schedule that you are required to meet to receive these benefits. Although you may be paying that tax, you may not be vested long enough to receive those benefits, which is a big red flag on any kind of tax that you're paying that you may not receive any benefit from. There are some beneficiary eligibility programs. Again, on a case-by-case basis, we'll address those. But for the most part, these are very thinned down for as far as if you don't use it, you don't lose it. It's pretty much watered down in that version. Again, we'd like to talk to you more about that on a case-by-case basis, depending on the age and how long you plan on working for the Washington CARES Act. So this is how you qualify. Now, I do want to address this real quick. Most long-term care policies require you to lose 2 out of 6 activities of daily living. The state of Washington has added 4 more benefits on this, or 4 more activities of daily living on this. And I think that's important to know because now they're requiring you 3 out of the 10, and this is in the language of that law, or that tax law, that you have to lose to be able to qualify for their benefits. Why I don't like this is because when you require someone additional claims to qualify for benefits, it becomes very difficult to do so. But you can see that bathing, eating, toileting, dressing, transferring, ambulation, body care, personal hygiene, medication management, and cognitive impairment, for the most part, if you can't qualify for one, usually can't qualify for multiple. So it's nothing really to be to be concerned of, but it is something to be aware of. Okay. Again, you have to be a resident of Washington, and all benefits have to be received in the state of Washington. Now, here's the catch. The money that you pay into this, whether you pay $580 a year, $5.80 a year, or $58,000 a year, these are your benefits. You receive effectively $100 a day. $100 a day, which is $36,500 a year in long-term care benefits. Well, there's a problem with that. And what I mean by that is most states' minimum LTC today in today's dollars is about $185 a day. So although it may help your current long-term care situation if you have no long-term care, it really is not your long-term care insurance. And here's the other problem I have with their state plan is that it's all required to be reimbursement. So you have to show that you've made home modifications. You have to show that you have receipts to prove that you have in-home personal care. And the other thing is you have to show that is a licensed practitioner. I've had this conversation with Zach before, and we're about to see one of the largest generations of our time all go on some kind of care, and that's the baby boomer generation. And Simple Economics 101 is as demand goes up, supply goes down, and when that happens, prices skyrocket. So we anticipate a fairly large inflation of those costs for licensed practitioners to take care of you. And again, with that being reimbursement, you having to show receipts before you can use this state fund to help cover that. It can be a very, very difficult way to help cover any of those, not if, but most likely when those future costs occur. So how do we get out of this? The simplest way is you have to have a policy in force or issued, I should say issued, by November 1st, 2021. So that gives a lot of people a very limited time frame to at least apply to see what they can get. There's several different solutions out there. Nationwide has several products that are already approved from the state that fit. Again, I love the fact that one of the largest insurance companies, not only in our country but in the world, has been proactive enough to get approval from the state of Washington that their products are approved. Nationwide is not the only one in this space that is approved, but they are one of the first ones to really step up and create material that will educate individuals and certainly have very transparent, low-cost products that work. Once you actually have a policy in force, they give you a little bit more time to show that you have this policy, so you're not having to do a bunch of paperwork right at November 1st if it happens to get down to that deadline. So what qualifies for long-term care insurance? So if you already have a long-term care insurance in effect, which I think Zach just did, it will be that 7702B, which is an IRS classification for long-term care. As long as it's that IRS classification 7702B, the product works and you are opted out. You are exempt from that tax. All the products that we've talked about with Zach and with Nationwide offers is 7702B, which does qualify to avoid that. Again, we need, if you are interested in this, we can look at several different solutions for you. I will tell you that Nationwide has 3 very unique long-term care products that can fit for each individual, depending on your goals and objectives, and depending on what the price you would actually pay for this tax is. The way I look at it is the current tax, if you stay put, which is fine, you do have some long-term care coverage, but it's your typical, if you don't use it, you lose it, where there's some solutions out there where we can offer you with right around about the same money you would pay otherwise in that tax. We could give you a solution that offers a little bit more as far as if you don't use it, at least your beneficiaries get it, or maybe have some liquidity events if you actually need some cash from it. So several different solutions out there. Zach, I can touch on those now, or we can work with everyone on a case-by-case basis.
Well, let's do a little overview of the different policies and the way they work, because look, guys, I think we've talked with a lot of you about this. This is kind of one of those scenarios, and I think that Nate's got some great products here. So in no way am I downplaying those or saying that they're not great products. We wouldn't be showing them here if we didn't think that they had some very, very real utility and they didn't help out quite a bit. But just to be sure, this is really us attempting to make the best out of a bad situation. And I mean, we never want the government putting a gun to our head and forcing us to buy anything, right, or enroll in something. So you know, it literally is going to be person to person, case by case. But the interesting thing about these products is that they have legitimate advantages. They, like I said, they provide legitimate insurance. They provide us a really solid multiplier on our money as it relates to long-term care. And then Nate, I don't want to speak out of school, but I know at least one of those products, it's kind of a dual purpose. It's got the long-term care benefit, but that also seconds as a death benefit, correct?
Yeah, yeah, and you know, each individual obviously is going to have different concerns, and maybe a lot of people currently have a life insurance policy they're paying premiums on. If we can eliminate that tax and you pay effectively less money than you paid on that tax, but we add a long-term care benefit to your life insurance, current life insurance policy, and save you money in the long run, that's what we're seeing right now for individuals who've already started working on this. And again, life insurance is no longer death insurance. Life insurance, specifically with Nationwide and a couple other big name carriers out there, is living insurance, and they have long-term care features or benefits that will qualify to for clients to opt out of this mandatory tax, which I think everyone saw is you know, it's great if you otherwise cannot get long-term care, but I think when you actually start looking at your other options out there, there's significantly better benefits outside of what the state is mandating for this Washington Cares Fund.
Yeah, and and just to emphasize this, guys, that is the biggest issue why we why I think the efficacy of these products that Nate's going to walk us through. I think that's the thing to really narrow in on. It's not that the tax is so penal. It's that over time, depending on your age, you're going to pay a non-meaningless amount of money into it, and you're going to get effectively nothing. Okay. Um, the products that Nate's going to walk us through, they actually have benefits. They actually have benefits that we can use as potentially as estate planning tools, like that product that has the death benefit. Not everybody will be eligible for that, but I'm just saying we look at these products and there's actually a real insurance aspect. There's a real benefit there. And again, may not be appropriate for everybody. Everybody's going to be different. We got to individually underwrite everybody. But when we look at the amount you're going to have to pay in via tax, and what you're getting for it, it's you know, it's what you'd expect from that fearless governor of ours. It's just, it's not hot. And Nate got a little bashed for what I said that. At least at our firm, Nate, kicking around Jay Inslee is a bit of a pastime. So I don't think we'll offend anybody by that. But anyway, yeah. So take us off and run us through this.
Yeah, so we're just going to talk about some of the new kind of long-term care insurance versus the old kind. And why I say that is most people, when you think of long-term care insurance, if you don't use it, you lose it. It's basically like almost your car insurance. They can change the premium on you based off your demographic, your age, even your location in a lot of situations. So I really want to talk about the new kind versus the old kind. One of the things that we're going to be kind of focusing on today is why it's important to have this. And again, I'm going to be brief on this, is the long-term care plan. Even if you have a policy, great. If you have a plan, why it's important is because it truly protects you against the 5 risks of retirement. And those are in order: longevity, health, sequence of returns, inflation, and taxes. And I'll go why that's important in order, because if you don't have longevity, guess what? The other 4 don't matter. But when you have longevity and you have bad health, that's when things start to get tricky, because you start spending more money. And if you start spending more money when you're taking money out of a down market sequence of returns, it can really start depleting your portfolio, and then medical costs start rising. You can see where this is going. Medical costs start rising, and you have to take money out of a taxable account. You owe Uncle Sam his pound. It can get really muddy. So if you have a plan put together, it certainly helps mitigate all these risks. So the very first kind of new kind of long-term care out there is what we call asset-based long-term care. And there's a reason why we call it asset-based. There's several insurance companies out there that offer what I like to call asset-based long-term care, because it truly sits as an asset inside your portfolio. It's truly leveraged dollars for long-term care. What I like about this is it's just a phone interview underwriting. There's no intrusive exam. Rarely is there ever any medical records required. This is, though, pretty much kind of designed for someone who can either pay it all up front. There are other options as a 5-pay, 10-pay. You can pay it up at 65 or lifetime pay if you're young enough. This is for the younger person that is truly looking to just leverage their dollars for long-term care. Why they call it asset-based, though, is because there is a return of premium. There's liquidity in this policy. So if you were otherwise holding on to money and you were self-insuring, why not give the insurance company that money if you have the liquidity, if you need it? I do like to press on this a little bit, and because if you're listening to this, you're probably curious of what kind of long-term care options are available. Be very, very detailed when it comes to whether those are indemnity benefits or reimbursement benefits. I'm going to touch on that real quick, Zach. Reimbursement benefits is what the Washington Cares Fund is requiring, which means you have to show a receipt. It has to be a licensed practitioner, right? They pay you dollar for dollar what your actual expenses are. Where indemnity, or I like to call cash benefits, they don't care what your costs are. They know what your benefit is, and they're going to pay you your benefit every month, whether it costs you that much or not. So if you have a policy that's supposed to pay you $10,000 a month, but it's only costing you $3,000 a month, wouldn't it be nice to receive the full 10 and do with that money what you want? Furthermore, and I want to emphasize, do with what you want. Wouldn't it be nice to have someone you know take care of you and pay them for, say, I call licensed stranger or licensed practitioner? So those are some things to really look at. And again, Zach and his team we're going to be really good at navigating you through all your options. So I'm going to give you an example here. This is a 65-year-old female that has an option of currently self-insuring, sitting on a lot of money and saying, I'm not really too worried about long-term care. I've planned for that. This $100,000 that they may be sitting on, or a piece of that, we can put this in the insurance company's hands and leverage our dollars up almost 5 to 1, paying 20 cents on the dollar for our long-term care benefits. Okay, this is important because we're not buying life insurance here. We're leveraging our dollars. And if we were to take that $100,000 elsewhere, we'd have to invest it at an 11% IRR after taxes to equal this kind of benefit out there. Now, this also works as my previous slide showed on different kind of payments, whether it's 5-pay, 10-pay, if you're young enough, pay it to age 65 or pay it for lifetime. But again, it is different because we are helping that person who's otherwise currently self-insuring. What does this look like in just a general 30,000-foot view? Well, if this 65-year-old sample here became chronically ill, they would most likely have to start depleting their cash immediately, right? And then most likely they'd have to start dipping into their stocks. And when they start dipping in them in a down market, that could be dangerous. And then depending on the liquidity of their real estate and bonds, they're gonna deplete those last. So what we like to focus on here is, if we're going to use cash first, let's just take some of that. And let's leverage that cash up to protect the rest of the portfolio from being depleted. However, we understand that, $100,000 or $50,000 is not an easy thing to really look at and depart from. It's a lot of people's, nest egg money. So what we can look at for certain individuals is reallocating or rediversifying where they're putting their qualified money. Well, that's your IRA, that's your 401k. Why I like to show this is because a lot of people are putting away money into their 401k or otherwise. We need to look at why we're doing that and where taxes have been versus where they could be. And if we look at this graph, this is the history of the federal income tax bracket. It goes all the way back to 1913. Why? Because that's when the 16th Amendment made federal income tax permanent. If we go through this, you're going to see some velocity spikes in our tax system. We are over 75% during World War I and 94% during World War II. I don't like to focus on this. It goes way too far back in our history, and the chances of us having velocity spikes like this again is not going to be very common. But 1965, 1981, over 70% or higher. That's something to be very cognizant of. I'm not even going to say we're going to get that high. And why I like to point at this graph is to talk about options to diversify or reallocate some money to help protect us from these long-term care events. Well, I just talked about this bucket. These are all your qualified money. Now, it's basically an IOU to Uncle Sam. If taxes go from 35% to 40 or 40 to 50, and you start taking money out to pay for your long-term care expenses above and beyond that 36 grand, what actually happens to the money you're taking out while taxes go up? Well, you realize less in your pocket, right? The other thing to be very cognizant of about these counts is the IRS looks at all of these as one thing, and that is called an IRA in the IRS code, 590A and 590B. And in that code, they describe an IRA as an individual retirement arrangement. An arrangement, not an account. But who controls that arrangement, right? Who controls it? The only IRS does. They control how much you can contribute, when you can take it out, when you must take it out, and how much you must take out. The scary thing, though, is control how much you get to keep. I'm not saying IRAs are bad. They serve a purpose. They're great. The tax deduction, tax deferral. But let's look at some of the positions that someone might be in where we can otherwise put this long-term care piece and in a solution that works for you. Well, this is an example, and I really like using this example. This is a live case that we actually worked on not too long ago. This is a 67-year-old female, had $500,000 of IRA money, happened to be sitting in a fixed index annuity. Most of these fixed index annuities, if not all, I think have a free annual free withdrawal. We just took 3% out of this 500 grand every year to help cover not if, but most likely when she needed coverage for long-term care. 3% is all. That's $15,000. Now, we wanted to make sure we withheld money to pay Uncle Sam. That left us $12,000, which we used as a premium to buy a $500,000 death benefit. But it wasn't just her death benefit. This is the new kind of life insurance. This is also her long-term care pool. And she can access that long-term care pool at 2% a month or $10,000 a month cash. Now, this right here made a lot of sense. She had we're just taking a very small amount. We do this every day with whether it's 1%, 2%, 3%, 5%. Again, this is where Zach and his team are the best out there to determine what is the best interest for you. But I always like to talk about the perceived downsides here, and I want to show this. This is just a hypothetical illustration here. And I don't want everyone to get too crazy with these numbers because this can be a little overwhelming. But I just want everyone to focus on this first column, the annual premium outlay. That's $12,000 a year. Yes, we have to pay that forever. Or if two things happen. One, if there's a death, now $500,000 or $500,000 is paid out to beneficiaries. Or, not if, but most likely when, you lose 2 out of 6 activities of daily living, all premiums are waived, and the policy's charges and costs are waived, so the policy cannot lapse while on claim. There's a second element to a lot of life insurance out there now, not only with these long-term care riders, but life insurance in general. There's a significant amount of cash value in a policy. So maybe you don't lose 2 out of 6 activities of daily living by the 20th year, age 86. You have $250,000 of cash that you can tap into. Again, everyone's going to be a little different here, but there are solutions outside of your traditional long-term care policy that you can buy, that if you don't lose it, or if you don't use it, you lose it. But furthermore than that, it's not if, but most likely when you're going to get a letter from that traditional long-term care insurance company that your premiums may be increasing or your benefits may be decreasing. Again, everyone's going to be a little different, but that's what Zach and his team are the best at, is finding these different solutions that best fit your goals and objectives, and certainly help you out to opt out of this mandatory tax by November 1st.
Yeah, and like Nate said, one of the other things that I wanted to bring up here was, all of our clients know my thoughts on bonds. And it's been interesting to kind of see the mainstream come around to that view now. And I think it's kind of widely recognized now that bonds are toxic. So one of the ways we looked at that is, let's say the bond portion of your portfolio with the annuity and the real estate fund, or one or the other, or whatever, let's say it's between, 350, or let's call it 400, 500, 600,000, right? Let's say we were to take 100,000 of that, right? From maybe the combination of just the annuity, maybe a free distribution of the annuity, but we'll use a round number. We'll say $500,000 is the bond portion of your portfolio that's in the annuity. Let's say over the next 2 years, we pulled out free distributions from the annuity that equaled 100 grand, right? And that paid for your policy. Okay, now I would still view that $500,000, $400,000 in the annuity, and then the $100,000 of life insurance. I would still view that as your bond portfolio. And if we play out the average annual performance, what that effectively would do, because you'd have $400,000 instead of $500,000 in the fixed index annuity, but you'd also have the insurance benefit, right? You'd have the insurance policy. So what that effectively would do would take your average annual performance in the annuity down to like 5.5, from 5.5 to like 4.5. But on top of that, you'd get a long-term care insurance. And on some of these products, you even get a death benefit. And that 4.5% of the annuity plus the life insurance, right? Because the life insurance, or excuse me, the long-term care insurance isn't going to be generating returns for us every year, right? But still, if we consider that part of your bond portfolio, that means that bond portion of your portfolio would be averaging right around 4.5, which is still better than any bond fund out there, right? So we're still beating bonds. We're still doing it cheaper. We're still doing it much safer, but we're adding that extra layer of coverage on top of it. So this kind of is morphing into part of our bond replacement strategy, meaning we can get all of that and still generate returns that are roughly 2 to 2.5 times what you can get in a bond fund with none of the downside risk. So that, and like I said, it's not for everybody, guys, but that interests me, right? Now we're actually looking at a setup and an insurance policy that actually delivers from some value, especially this one with the death benefit. Even if you got 9-10 years in, you've paid in 120,000, and God forbid something happens to you, your beneficiaries get $500,000 tax free, right? So, and when we consider we're making that part of your bond portfolio theoretically, it's kind of, and this is why I say it. Would you rather have the fixed indexed annuity making 5.5% a year with no long-term care and no death benefit? Or would you rather have it making 4.5% a year, same amount of money, making 4.5% a year, but it's also protecting you against long-term care insurance and providing a death benefit? That seems to me like a pretty easy trade-off to make, right? We're not giving up much, and we're getting a pretty good amount. And that's why I said it's not for everybody, but you can see now looking at these numbers that there's actual benefit there, right? This can actually further better your financial position. So I don't know if you had anything else to say, Nate. And in closing, my whole thing would be, guys, what we want to do is, this is worth the conversation, especially for those of you that are subject to the tax, especially for those of you that are W-2. Let's make sure we connect and just go over it, right? It doesn't commit you to anything. You guys know that we're not a life insurance shop. We're not trying to hustle long-term care insurance. This was just a curveball thrown at all of us, and we're just doing our best to adjust on the fly. And I think we actually have some very reasonable, non-painful options that will both save you from the tax and actually, offer you significantly better protection you'd otherwise have. You can add anything you'd like, Nate.
Yeah, no, and I just encourage you to give them a call and find out if you're better off opting out through a program like this, or if it makes sense to opt into it. In reality, there's a lot of conversations to be had on this. There is a small window, so it makes no sense to wait. Again, there are some new options out there. It is leverage, what we're doing, and whether all the new solutions, we're buying leverage. We're truly taking money of our left pocket and leveraging it in our right. And that's what life insurance really is in these solutions. It's not, like I said, your typical death insurance that you're used to buying. These truly are, it's living insurance. But again, everyone's going to be different. And Zach and the team will certainly help you navigate through your options.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, hey, thank you so much. And thank you guys for your patience while we kind of wrapped our hands around this and wrapped our heads around it. And we're able to come up with some potential solutions. And like I said, maybe this starts another dialogue where we bring Brian, we hook you back up with Brian on. The whole point is to maximize the use and utility of your guys' dollars and minimize the risk. And that fits right in there. So feel free to reach out. We will be reaching out regardless. So you can feel free to wait for us to reach out to you as well. And let's go over the situation and make sure that let's make sure that we're being purposeful about this. That we're just not paying a tax or ignoring it. Let's be purposeful about it, and let's see if we can't put you in a better situation. So thank you, Nate, so much for the time and the information. And I know we'll be working together more on this going forward. And I just thank you for your time, and I look forward to chatting with you guys. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.